Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Jeff Kinkade. I honestly thought by this stage of my life, I would have outgrown perfectionism. I really did. That's mostly because I really didn't understand what was driving my perfectionism. See, you don't outgrow perfectionism because perfectionism is built on a set of lies that you've internalized. What are those lies? Well, until you identify those lies and replace them, you end up staying stuck. So that's what we're going to do here in this video. We're going to identify 5 of the most common lies that perfectionism is built on, and we'll replace them with permissions that will free you from each one. In my last video, I talked about what causes a person to become a perfectionist in the first place. And if you haven't watched that video, you really do owe it to yourself to go back and watch it. I hope you will. So what are the most common lies that drive perfectionism? Well, let's just get into it. And let's start with this one. If I can't do it all, I'm failing. Now the reason, see, that's a lie is that like the rest of us, you're human. And because you're human, you have limitations. For instance, you have limited time of the day. You have limited energy. You have limited capacity. Perfectionism requires you to deny the reality that you're human and to live as if you have no limits whatsoever. So the permission that you need to give yourself is this: I'm allowed to have limits, just like every other human being. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Christianity, you might even recognize that even Jesus accepted the limitations of being human. He didn't heal every sick person or say yes to every request. Sometimes the most spiritual thing that you can do is say, I can't. You're not here to be everything. You're here to be faithful with what's yours. And accepting your limits doesn't mean you're giving up. In fact, it means that you become more present in the few things that actually matter. Okay, so here's the second lie that many people go their entire lives without ever recognizing they've internalized. Saying no is selfish. In order to excel at anything, you have to practice intentional neglect. And when I first heard it, it made me wince. Because, you know, if you're a perfectionist, the idea of neglecting anything on purpose feels wrong. It feels careless, but it's not careless. Practicing intentional neglect means that you consciously choose what you're going to leave undone, what you're going to let go, what you're going to accept that you're not going to excel at, so that you can maximize your effectiveness at the things that matter the most to you. It's not about being careless. It's how you care for what matters most. So here's the permission. I'm allowed to say no. And here's the reason. Because every no protects a deeper yes. So here's an exercise that you might do. What are you giving too much time and energy to right now that might be good things, but that aren't your ultimate thing? Pick what matters the most and intentionally neglect the rest. That's not giving up. That's clarity. That's maturity. And as a leader, that's something I've had to learn to do over the years. Okay, here's the third lie, and it's closely related to the second one. It only counts if it's excellent. See, perfectionism itself cannot tolerate the truth that a thing can be valuable even if it's not impressive, but that's a lie. And it's a lie that can rob you of an enormous amount of joy. I'll give you a couple examples of that from my own life. I came to a point in my life where I realized I needed a hobby. People would ask me what my hobbies were, and I was kind of embarrassed to admit that I didn't really have a hobby. So I finally realized I needed one, but I was mystified by what my hobby should be. It had been so long since I'd really thought of just doing something for fun that I couldn't come up with a hobby. It was really embarrassing. Well, after thinking about it a lot, I realized that I'd always been fascinated by and had always admired people who could build stuff with their hands. And I realized that I'd always wanted to try woodworking, but that I'd never gotten into it really out of fear that I wouldn't be good at it. And I was right. I am terrible at it, and I love it at the same time. Bad cuts, crooked boards, ugly joints, and all. It is an enormous amount of fun, and it takes my mind off of everyday life like nothing else. No one in their right mind would pay me for anything that I've ever built, but it is so incredibly valuable to me, even though what I build isn't impressive. Now, here's a second example from my own life: parenting. There is no perfect parent. And chasing perfection as a parent, and I can tell you this from experience, just leads to anxiety and guilt and exhaustion. But being present, loving your child, showing up, apologizing when you blow it, that's what they will remember. So here's the permission that you need to give yourself. And get ready, because this will be hard for you. I can do things just for joy, not performance. Life isn't an audition, it's a gift. So take the risk. Write the poem, join the group, start the project. Do it awkwardly, do it imperfectly, but do it anyway. Okay, fourth lie that drives your perfectionism. My inner critic is telling me the truth. Perfectionists tend to practice a lot of self-condemnation. We're hard on ourselves in part because we think that will make us better. So we scan for flaws and we replay mistakes. And the way that anybody's brain works is that what you give attention to, you get more of. And so over time, you've trained yourself to believe that your inner critic is telling you the truth. Specifically, the truth being this: I have to be perfect to be lovable, which is the voice of shame. It's not true. It's motivation by fear. And while sometimes fear works as a motivator in the short term, it's an unsustainable motivator over the long term. It will absolutely crush your spirit. The good news is that the mind can be rewired, and the way to rewire it is by celebrating what you usually overlook. Tiny steps, honest efforts, quiet courage when you told the truth even though your voice shook, when you went to the party instead of staying home. So here's the permission. I grow through grace, not shame. And here's a practice that you could do. At the end of each day, write down one thing that you're proud of, not because it was excellent, but because it was honest, or brave, or consistent. Your inner critic is not telling you the truth, but grace tells you the whole story and still invites you forward. Okay, here's the last lie. Rest is wasted time. There's a guy by the name of Stephen Covey who wrote a book, I think it was back in the 90s, and it was called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he used the story of a guy who's cutting down a tree and becomes really frustrated that he can't cut the tree down. And when someone suggests that maybe what he should do is take a break to sharpen his saw, he refuses, saying he doesn't have time, which of course, a dull blade is only going to lead to more frustration. Now, this idea of sharpening your saw is something that I have a very difficult time with, even though I've experienced the hard way that taking care of yourself is a necessity for the long term, not a luxury. So here's the permission that you need to give yourself. I will schedule time for recreation. You know, if you break the word recreation apart, you hear what it's really for. Recreation. You need to sharpen your saw. You weren't made to produce all the time. You were made to breathe, to rest, to laugh, to just be. Some of the most transformative moments in life come during times of rest, when you're playing with your kids, hiking in silence, you know, laughing with friends, or just sitting in quiet. So go to the concert, call a friend, take the walk, paint badly, sing off key. That is not wasting time. It's soul care. When you block off time to rest, play, connect, you're building a boundary against perfectionism, and you're reminding your soul, I'm more than what I achieve. Okay, so let me leave you with this. You don't have to keep proving yourself. You don't have to be excellent at everything. You don't have to fix every flaw, return every message, say yes to every request. You're allowed to be human, not perfect, but present, not polished, but real. And that's not just good news, that's the beginning of freedom. Now, if this video spoke to something deep in you, here's what I want to know. What's one thing that you'll stop trying to be perfect at this week? Leave it in the comments. You never know, your honesty might help someone else who's reading those. And if you missed part 1 of this series, go back and watch it. It's where this journey really starts, the loneliness underneath perfectionism. To understand people, including yourself, and to transform your relationships, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.